Hi guys, welcome back to Unsolved with Barb. I did find another case today. It's coming out of Detroit, and it says Detroit parents allegedly beat their 5-year-old son to death. A mother and stepfather, both 27, are accused of fatally beating their 5-year-old son and injuring their 3-year-old child. According to the Wayne County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, on January 22nd, shortly after 1 p.m., Detroit police officers responded to a home on Spring Garden Street and transported the 5-year-old victim, Ethan Belcher, to a local hospital where he was pronounced deceased. The attorney office said the surviving 3-year-old victim, who had apparent bruising to his head and face, was found at another location and transported to local hospital as well. The suspects were identified as Valerie Hamilton, Ethan's biological mother, Shane Shelton, his stepfather. Ethan had apparently marks on his body indicating a cord had been used to abuse him. One of his toes was reportedly rotting and black, showing signs of gangrene. According to the Detroit News, authorities interviewed other kids in the residence who claimed Hamilton and Shelton forced them to stay in sewage water and feces-filled basement, where they would allegedly beat the children. Text messages reportedly revealed that Shelton called the kids explicit names, used foul language to describe the children and their beatings. During the parents' arraignment, Wayne County Assistant Prosecutor Attorney Matthews Makepeace reportedly said that Hamilton texted Shelton and said she would slam their kids so hard their heads would pop off. Wow. So that was the mother that said that? Wow. According to the Detroit News, Wayne County Magistrate Joseph Boyer called the alleged abuse and torture quite disturbing. On January 25th, the attorney's office announced that Shelton and Hamilton were charged with 1 count felony murder, 2 counts first-degree child abuse, 1 count of torture, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit torture. Wow. So sad. The press release just says, a Detroit couple charged in homicide of 5-year-old son, non-fatal abuse of a 3-year-old son. And it just goes over what we just read. The defendant's 3-year-old son was observed at the location suffering from bruising to his head. Medics arrived on scene and transported the child to hospital for treatment.
Abuse case on Detroit's east side.
5-year-old boy is dead. A 3-year-old is in the hospital tonight, and the details as they emerge are shocking. In fact, a warning, some of this may be very difficult to hear and see. We're bringing Jacqueline Francis live at 36th District Court tonight with more on the story. Jacqueline?
Devin and Kimberly, the family tells us this 5-year-old boy was beaten to death by his stepdad. They say it comes after years of suffering unthinkable abuse. We're talking with the child's aunt tonight. She wants to know how this could have happened after she documented and reported the abuse a year ago. This is 5-year-old Ethan Belcher. The young Detroit boy was killed over the weekend. Ethan's mom and stepdad are charged with murder, child abuse, and torture in his death. Ethan's aunt describing the injuries found on his body.
Multiple wounds. He has over 100 cigarette burns on his body.
Jesus.
He had the frostbitten feet, and he was missing a toe.
The couple, Shane Shelton and Valeria Hamilton, both 27, were arrested Sunday after Detroit police were called to the home on Detroit's east side. Police say Shelton's 3-year-old son was also beaten by the couple, taken to the hospital for his injuries. In court today, the prosecutor's office described the disturbing allegations, saying the couple abused all the children in the home.
He would put them in their basement of this house. He would force the children to go down there for some amount of time, even sleeping down there in the sewage water.
In her devastation, Ethan's aunt is demanding answers, saying she documented and reported this abuse last year when the kids stayed with her, saying both CPS and Lincoln Park police opened an investigation.
We could have saved his life. He would have been here today had they just listened. There was more than one case through CPS about the abuse. It wasn't just me. It was other people who reported it. And it just got swept, they got sick to take some classes and got these children back. And it was a house of terror, a house of terror.
Both parents remained behind bars. They're being held without bond. They're due back in court next week.
How could this happen? A 5-year-old dead, a 3-year-old hospitalized in a horrifying case of child abuse. And tonight we're demanding answers. Good evening, everybody. I'm Kimberly Gill.
And I'm Karen Drew in for Devin tonight. We are working to get answers about where and how the system failed these 2 children after authorities were alerted to problems. And this happened well before this happened.
Really horrible story here. Rod Maloney has been asking some tough questions tonight. Rod, what are you finding out?
Well, we're finding out a couple of things. One, this family has been on police and child protective services radar for the past couple of years. But we're also finding out that making a child abuse case stick is exceptionally difficult. Terrible violence filled 5-year-old Ethan Belcher's short and very sad life. His aunt, athlete Belcher, told Local 4 last night about how she cared for Ethan and his siblings for his parents, Valeria Hamilton, and stepfather Shane Shelton, 18 months ago.
Ethan had bruises from head to toe. His head was all lumped up. His eye was almost split open. The bruises were so bad on his bottom, he couldn't even sit down.
Ashley took pictures. We'll only show you this one. Then took Ethan to the hospital. Lincoln Park police say they launched an abuse investigation into Shelton, who is now charged with Ethan's murder. Lincoln Park PD was able to get the children placed with their grandmother, spoke with everyone involved, including specialized interviews with the children, sent an evidence package to Prosecutor Kim Worthy's office, but did not get approval for an arrest warrant.
They still ultimately went back to that home.
Thereafter, the family moved to this ramshackle Detroit house on Spring Garden Street, where police found Ethan dead and his younger brother seriously injured.
The worst abuse case I have ever seen, and I am not sensationalizing it.
Detroit Police Chief James White shudders to think about what went on in this house of horrors.
The loss of this beautiful young life by someone that he trusted and loved, and it's unspeakable. There are details about this case that I will never forget, and I know our officers won't forget, and it's just horrible.
The chief told me he was very glad they were quickly able to get a warrant in this case. In the meantime, Child Protective Services reached out. I reached out to them. They have gotten back to me, but they said that they are not allowed to speak about specific cases. And so what they told me was the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services was extremely saddened to hear about Ethan Belcher's death, and the department expresses its condolences to his loved ones. MDHHS will continue to work daily with law enforcement, community partners, and others on prevention services. Back to you.
Rod, this is so frustrating. CPS gives this answer all the time. We have done stories about this with the mother, with the child in the freezer. We did something in the fall, and they always come back and say they can't share this information, and it's heartbreaking.
All right, guys. I think that's all I have for right now. I will keep up on this case as well as the other 2 cases I covered yesterday, which was Skylar Wilson's case, the one where he was swaddled too hard, where it caused him lack of oxygen to his brain, and as well as the gay couple from Georgia with the abuse of their adoptive sons. I will be keeping up on those as well. So until next time, stay safe and keep loving each other.